very seriously. I will say this about Governor Spencer Cox, who was the lieutenant governor to Governor Herbert. Our offices were almost right next to each other during the Herbert administration. He uses writing as a way to sort of process his thoughts. And so
he's a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
As a fellow lawyer, I can appreciate
You
that.
like that. That's a lawyerly thing, just to sit and just kind of free form it out and figure out your argument. He does a lot of that, and then it gets refined, and he doesn't just throw his first draft out there. He's got obviously a number of advisors and people who weigh in on these types of things to get it right. Overall, I thought really strong speech. I thought it was really good. I wrote down a few words as I listened to it. He sounds friendly. He wasn't there to pick a fight with the legislature. It was succinct in that I thought he got to the point when he got into the policy-heavy section. He got right to it. Focused. He understands what he wants to go accomplish. And I thought overall the speech was sharp. And, I would have probably given it somewhere between an 8.5 to a 9 or 9.5 out of 10 as far as speech. Performance, I think he does a terrific job. So with that said, there's my take on it. What did you think of the speech?
Yeah, no, I think you're right on that. And I actually want to piggyback off of the friendly thing that you said there, because one of the things that's been interesting about Governor Cox is he was a former legislator, so he understands how the legislature works. And I think he has tried very hard through his time as governor to work closely with the legislature. I don't know that every governor does that necessarily, but, not that they don't work with the legislature, but I think that Governor Cox tries very much to
some are more cooperative than adversarial, and some are okay
and
being
because
adversarial.
He's been there, right? I think he appreciates what the legislature does. And so a lot of the things that he said, I thought, I'm not surprised by any of these. But it's because we've been hearing about them for a while now with the legislature and with other things that people have been talking about. So that they're, I kind of came away from it thinking, yes, he is definitely talking to legislative leaders. There's a lot of agreement at the top of the state, as to the direction that we want the state to go. And that's going to be interesting from a legislative standpoint because, having them all on the same page, kind of driving things forward, I don't know. There's some interesting things that are going to come out of that.
And I think there's a lot of benefit to our state that comes from the fact that the governor and the speaker and the Senate president are generally on the same page. It helps them go get a lot of things done.
Right.
And a lot of that can be coordinated where it doesn't have to become a public fight. I will tell you this, no matter how close you are as friends or how much you actually get along and want to collaborate, there's always tension, right?
Of course.
There's tension between the Speaker of the House and the Senate President on some issues. Not that they're throwing punches, but where they have disagreements that they have to work out. And the same happens when you add that third element of the governor's office and the executive branch into the mix. All right. The governor began his address last night. I want to just get to a couple clips here talking about the gap between American ideals and American actions.
Sadly, over the past couple of decades, a tragic gap has formed between American ideals and our actions. Negativity and inertia have replaced America's culture of building. We stopped building infrastructure as a tangle of overregulation, outdated permitting processes, and entrenched NIMBYism fed by special interests and bureaucracies block the projects we desperately need.
What do you think?
I like what he says. I mean, particularly from an infrastructure standpoint, running for the county, infrastructure was something that was discussed a lot, especially here in Salt Lake County. You have your east-west traffic that's just an absolute nightmare. Some of those infrastructure developments bringing the state together. And it's not necessarily just roads, right? We're talking about all sorts of different infrastructure needs. But the idea that we have gotten bogged down by regulation and permitting and it has prevented us from moving forward is, I think, something that isn't often talked about a ton, but is very much the case.
This seems to be the en vogue thing on the Republican side, and I think there's a lot of momentum for it, not only in Utah, but nationally, and that is, can we just get out of our own way?
Yep.
That we feels like we've somehow complicated things and gotten in our own way. You go back to the governor's speech. These are just the notes I took as I was going along. We must build. Now is the time for building. Build in the face of cynicism. Utah values used to be American values, and he goes into this, but a lot of the build, and then he gets into sort of some of the specifics, and he outlined really 5 policy specifics in this. He talked about housing attainability. Housing's the number one issue for people in the state
no
right
question.
now. Energy abundance, energy production, and making sure we have reliable and affordable energy supply, not only now, but for our growing needs. That's a huge one for people.
And a discussion on nuclear. I think we're going to see some really interesting things in that vein, too.
He hit infrastructure and permitting reform. That goes back to getting out of our own way a little bit, community safety, and family strength. Let's take a look, or let's listen into a clip about the housing stuff in particular.
Today, serving side by side with legislators here, I'm proposing bold action and building in 5 key areas. First, housing attainability. We are reforming the regulatory regime, supporting more single-family construction and fast-tracking approval processes. Through the Utah First Homes program, we will build 35,000 starter homes in 5 years. The greatest generation did this after World War II, and we can do it again.
All right, here's my thing about housing. And this clip didn't necessarily show it, but he talked a couple times about NIMBYism. I think that one of the other things I came away with is a little bit of a friendly preemptive warning from the governor that business as usual is not going to work anymore. We have to start thinking about these things in new ways, and housing is one of those. They are putting an emphasis on single-family housing, but I don't know that this state can sustain just single-family housing development and deal with the growth that we're encountering. We need a pipeline of housing, and it's going to be a lot more than just the single-family homes. So I think we're going to have some very interesting conversations coming up here about development and housing development in general, because it's not going to be what we've been used to in the past.
That's interesting because I drive around Salt Lake and I feel like all I ever see being built are apartment buildings that are 6 stories high. I do think this section led to what I think is one of the stronger lines of the speech, or the one that at least got a reaction from me. We want our kids to live near us, but not necessarily with us. And as someone who's got, a 20-year-old in college and getting up into the higher teens with my kids, I can totally understand how, that's actually what I want. I want my kids to live near me, but eventually not exactly with me. So housing, one of those big issues. We're going to talk more about the governor's State of the State address coming up in our next segment as well. There's so much that you can kind of break down and look at each one of these elements. I think we should talk through some of these a little bit more. But overall, I gave it a grade. I said about 8.5 to a 9.5, probably 8.5.
Yeah, I think that's about where I am too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to have more on the governor's State of the State address and a whole lot more coming up over the next hour and 45 minutes. This is Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
The newest part of your morning, and still so familiar.
When you wake up and listen to a radio show, it's like you're a part of a family. You're listening in on people you know, and it's magnificent that Andy Farnsworth is sitting in the chair because he's someone we know.
Utah's Morning News. Andy Farnsworth joins Amanda Dixon to bring you important news in the car. 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
At JCW's, we think tipping might be getting a little out of hand. Like when you're asked to tip at the register before you've even been served. Or when you're at the yogurt shop and find yourself serving yourself. And don't even get us started on frosted tips making a comeback. That's why at JCW's, when you pay for a 3rd-pound ranch bacon cheeseburger, that's what you pay. And no one at the register is going to stare longingly at you while you awkwardly maneuver through the tip screen for food you don't even have yet. Honestly, we're just happy to see you at any of our 5 locations in Provo, South Jordan, Lehigh, Harriman, and American Fork. So come on in and enjoy some quality time and great food with family and friends. And we promise, we won't be pushing you for a tip.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's, and we just want to say thank you, and especially to our loyal customers. We want you to know that at JCW's, your business is all the tip we need. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
At Trio Senior Living, older adults aren't slowing down. They're just getting started. The Prime Fit Wellness Program expands wellness beyond the gym into every aspect of community life. Whatever your goals, the team at Trio Senior Living has got your back, so you can put your best foot forward. Join Trio Senior Living at the Winter Carnival, January 25th from noon to 2 p.m. We hope to see you there.
Accomplishing goals is hard, but when your goal is to learn a new language, Babbel makes it easy. Babbel is designed with you in mind. From expert-created lessons to conversational video units and even live classes, you can personalize your Babbel experience to be exactly what you need to really learn a new language more easily. Go ahead, set a goal for yourself. Accomplish it with Babbel. Try Babbel for free. Go to BABBEL.com. That's Babbel.com.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Do you have an IRA or 401k? It's natural to think of this as being your money, right? But remember, you still have to pay taxes when you withdraw this money in retirement. And you could be paying a lot more in taxes on these accounts than you know. A lot more. Learn the strategies that can help you reduce or eliminate your taxes in retirement. Don't miss a special edition of Retirement Solutions Radio this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Right here on KSL News Radio 102.7.
Do you have any idea how hard your heating system has to work when your old windows let the cold air seep in? Your energy bill is going through the roof. But there's an answer, and it comes from Advanced Window Products. For 38 years, they've been building state-of-the-art insulated windows and frames, and every one of them is built right here in Utah. So let me explain why it's cost-effective to call them for new windows right now. First, you'll see a significant drop in your energy bills, winter and summer, and right now, call Advanced Windows and you'll get $2,500 off on 10 windows or more. Triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane insulated glass that'll keep out the cold, and custom frames in any style, any color. Advanced Windows offers a 60-month, 0% interest payment plan, and they even offer a plan with no payment, no interest for 24 months. Plus, that $2,500 off right now. Call for a no-pressure consultation, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back. During the last segment, we discussed several key points of the governor's State of the State address. I think we're going to continue that conversation, and at the end, we'll talk a little bit about.
I could talk about it for like an hour if you want. We can just do the whole show today. 2 hours on the State of the State address.
Well, we've got a few more minutes. Let's continue to talk about things that stood out to us. At the end of this, I want to make sure that we have some time to talk about the end of the governor's speech as well as the Democratic response. But give us more, Marty. What else? We talked about these 5 points. We talked about housing. Tell us more. How did you think he did? This community safety one I thought was interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think. Governor Cox talked about community safety. He highlighted the homeless initiatives that the state is doing, emphasizing both accountability and compassion. He also talked about, he said, we must get phones out of schools. I thought that was interesting. There's a push for that this year. So I don't know. Tell me what you think about it.
Well, this is like in the structure of the speech, he did get into these 5 policy areas. Mm-hmm. But he didn't take a deep dive in any of them.
No.
Right? In fact, the one you mentioned, the community safety, when I went back and listened to it kind of twice, and the only notes I could take was, he said something about homelessness and something about public safety reforms, but no specifics.
Yeah.
And that's okay. He's not there to outline, like, I want to do this, and I think that subsection 2 of this bill should say this. That gets worked out behind the scenes. But yeah, that felt like a section where I maybe needed a little more. Like, I get that. Yeah,
that's interesting.
It's a good buzzword, the community safety, and something about homelessness and something about public safety reforms. But I didn't get any meat on the bone.
I guess that one stood out to me more because in my race for county mayor, that was the discussions were housing, homelessness, and taxes. Like, those were the big 3 things. So his efforts on that, talking about the states, kind of highlighting the work that they've done. I think he talked about how they're making significant strides. They've had they've seen a lot of improvement with it. I don't know that I totally buy that. I don't know that anybody else totally buys that, but it caught my attention because this was a world that I was very much engaged in over the last year.
It also goes to the audience, right? This is a statewide address from a statewide leader.
Yes.
So it's not a Salt Lake County specifically, hey, you've got a homelessness
That's
issue.
True.
It's
true.
Speaking to the people in Washington County and Daggett County and Box Elder County where they're saying, well, that may not be something I need you to spend 10 minutes talking about. But I would have said, I don't know exactly what he's for there other than he's pro-community safety, right? And pro-figuring out how to address homelessness and that we can do it with treating people with dignity and also getting them the help that they need. This goes into some of the things that are going on. It happened even during last session related to mental and behavioral health and policing, and Representative Clancy was a big champion and moved the ball forward in a number of important ways up there. But yeah, something that in the speech didn't get as much. The family strength, I did have that jump out to me. Phones out of schools. And, I'm a father of 4. I got 1 in college, so the other 3 are 2 in junior high and 1 in high school. And I like them to have their phones with them, but in the sense of like if something happens at the school, or I like to know where they are and if I can see where their phone is, I can see where they are, right? And I know they've made it to school and they're staying at school, but I don't, as time goes on, I'm more and more in agreement of, walk into the class, put the phones down, away, turn them off, whatever. They're good for the 5 minutes in between classes.
No, this is another interesting one that came up several times on the campaign trail for me. People being concerned that if you take phones out of school, then what happens if there's an incident at the school? How do you know that your kid is safe if they don't have their phone, if they can't access their phone? And that was something I frankly hadn't really thought about until people had brought it up, because I'd been thinking more on the train of, look, we've got to make sure that phones are not distracting kids in school from learning and preventing kids from learning. But there's this safety component now of, yes, but I want to know that my kid is okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it's...
And maybe that's me being part of a helicopter parent generation. And just like, I have a privilege that my parents never had, which is I can look on my little computer screen here and see exactly where my kids are at all time. One thing the governor really did hit hard on in that strengthening families section was Social Security benefits not being taxed. I mean, that was the part where he really dug in. He did more on that as part of the family strength section than he did on like all of community safety. So I think that's going to get done anyway. And I think it's a winner issue.
Because I don't know if it will. I mean, we've interviewed some of the legislators and talked a little bit about this. I'm not sure. I don't know. There's kind of an appetite of, well, really the only ones who are paying taxes on Social Security at this point are the 1%. So is that where we want to spend our time?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not totally convinced that it's going to pass.
Yeah. I just, if he spent that much sort of capital to come out and hit it, that would indicate to me that I've probably got some kind of deal where this is going to get done, or somehow it's going to get folded in, or we're going to take a big step in that direction overall.
Well, let's listen real quick to the end of the governor's State of the State address. We've got a couple minutes, his last couple minutes of the speech, and then we'll talk about the Democratic response.
Like those who went before us, and despite any obstacles in our path, we must build. Built here means remembering that every bridge, building, and breakthrough started with someone who refused to accept impossibility. Built here means rejecting false choices, like building thousands of new homes and maintaining our quality of life. Built here means being unrelentingly impatient in our pursuit to make this a happier place to live, because we know that success is not inevitable, it is earned. Built here means axing every tax that we can so that our people can put more money in their hard-earned pockets to work in providing for their families and chasing their dreams. Built here means rejecting conflict entrepreneurs who would weaponize our attention and energy and destroy that which makes us special. Built here means supporting the free people of Utah in finding their own way to build, whether it's a business, a farm, or a family. Built here means making Utah inclusive to every lawful newcomer while fiercely guarding the proven values that make us proud and peculiar. Built here means still doing the big things, the hard things in our lives and this legislative session. Built here means not forsaking our ideals when we fall short of them, but dusting ourselves off, improving what we can, and narrowing the eternal gap between the is-ness and the ought-ness in ourselves and the world around us. Built here means giving our kids and grandkids an inspiring story to tell about our time, so that 180 years from now, our descendants can look back at us with the pride and gratitude and reverence that we feel in our hearts today.
All right, so a couple things that stood out to me in this. He talked about refusing to accept impossibility. When I talk about a little bit of that shot across the bow, that warning, he says we need to reject false choices, like a choice between building and preserving quality of life. That's where I think we're going to see some of this stuff come in. He talked about rejecting conflict entrepreneurs, making our state inclusive to every lawful newcomer. I thought that was an interesting pitch. And so I don't know. Some of those things stood out to me as kind of his final pitch in the speech.
Yeah, what'd you think of the lawful newcomer phrasing?
I thought that was a lawyer being very careful about how he talked about people coming to the state.
Yeah, it's essentially saying we're good on immigrants, illegal immigration, not so much.
Yes.
And we're good on refugees.
Right.
And that's been an important thing to Governor Cox and something he's been very supportive of, not only throughout his administration, but when he was lieutenant governor as well. So overall, I think he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish there. And now the legislature is done with the speaker's opening remarks, the Senate president's opening remarks to start each of their workloads in their respective chambers. And now the governor's come in and had his say. And now we get down to work. But first, the Democrats get their shot as well.
Yeah, so let's listen for just a second here to the Democratic response to the governor's speech.
Utah's true strength comes from its people. Our rich diversity of experiences, background, and ideas make our state exceptional. Together, we can build a Utah that embraces and welcomes all, where everyone feels a sense of belonging and has the opportunity to prosper.
Let us work toward a Utah that reflects and celebrates the stories and contributions of every individual. United, we can create a more inclusive and equitable future for all Utahns. Join us in this effort. Get involved, speak up, and help shape the Utah we all deserve.
All right, so Marty, you and I are both Republicans. I think we can acknowledge that here. But what did you think of the Democratic response?
Hey, first and foremost, it said nothing, right? Like there was no, hey, the majority wants to do this, but we disagree and we should do this. It was very 30,000-foot level and didn't really say anything. Like I walk away going, okay, so Democrats just sort of like what Republicans are doing, but they want to be nicer about it. Like I didn't get what they were trying to do. I think you have like two ways you can go. You can do it that way, or you can do it like the way the British do this, where like the opposition can get up and say, but we've done this and we've got this problem, we've got this problem. The other thing is they said diversity, they said equity, or equitable, and they said inclusive. And on the Republican side and the general wave of the country right now, those aren't three words that I would include in a speech if I were trying to win favor right now.
Well, I think they're trying to make the point that we are here for all people, right? That's kind of been what I've seen out of them over the week is we want to make sure that anything we do is good for all people, and they are very much sticking to that.
They just didn't tell me what that is that's different than what the majority is doing or what the governor laid out.
You're not wrong. Well, when Inside Sources returns, we're going to stay on Utah's Capitol Hill and spend some time recapping the first week of the 2025 Legislative General Session, so that's coming up next.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top story this hour, $3 million. That's how much the governor's office is recommending we pay the Sundance Film Festival to stay in Utah.
Ryan Starks, the executive director for the governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, laid out the budget recommendations to an appropriations committee today.
The funding is recommended for one time of $1.5 million and ongoing for $1.5 million. Those would be tied, obviously, to the festival staying.
But to pay for Sundance and other budget proposals this year, they're going to have to make some cuts. Those cuts include money from the Office of Tourism and for an incentive program the Utah Film Commission uses to draw filmmakers to film in Utah. Sundance is expected to announce which city they want to host by spring. Boulder, Colorado, and Cincinnati, Ohio are also still in the running. Heather Peterson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. It looks like the Senate will vote tonight on President Trump's choice to lead the Pentagon. Republican support for Defense Secretary nominee Pete Hegseth seems to be chipping away, with two female Republican senators saying they can't support him. But as it stands now, 4 Republicans would have to vote no to keep him from securing that nod. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow down by 200 points, nearly 0.5%, sitting at 44,363, and the NASDAQ, it's down by more than 0.5%. Get ready for another round of snow overnight. We'll check the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Are you tired of the pain and discomfort caused by those bulky, ill-fitting dentures? Sick of feeling self-conscious when you eat with family and friends? It's time to take charge. Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's best of state winner, is here to give you your freedom back. Say goodbye to dentures and say hello to the All-on-X dental implant procedure. The permanent, life-changing fix that lets you chow down on your favorite foods without a care in the world and flash that confident smile once again. With cutting-edge technology, you can have a brand new permanent smile in as little as 24 hours. Yes, you heard right. Fast forward to finals and let your new smile steal the show. And here's the best part. Your consultation is absolutely free. At Stubbs Dental Implant Center, Utah's #1 dental implant center, they've helped thousands of patients love their smiles again. You could be next. It only takes 60 seconds to start your journey to a happier, healthier smile at StubbsDental.com. That's StubbsDental.com.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, so we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
At Intermountain Children's Health, we've created a bold plan called Primary Promise to build the nation's model health system for children. Help us achieve this once-in-a-generation vision so together we can bring the world-class care of Primary Children's Hospital closer to home for every child in our communities. For more than a century, Primary Children's has kept the child first and always. Join us for the next 100 years. To learn more, visit primarypromise.org.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Ricky Meese, what's happening?
Bangerter Highway in the Riverton area remains closed in both directions due to a hazmat situation. We also have a small accident in Murray. It's at the bottom of the off-ramp from northbound I-15 at 5300 South, blocking a right lane. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy skies today with a high of 41. Snow showers developing overnight, continuing into the morning. Utah Valley expected to see the highest totals. Right now, cloudy, 36 degrees. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
All right, welcome back. Marty Carpenter and Aaron Ryder along with you today. We've been talking about the governor's State of the State address, which, I could talk about for 2 hours. I don't know if everybody wants to listen to me talk about a 25-minute, 16-second speech.
Well, you are a
more
comms person, Marty, and have written these before.
I like the big speeches, and I like I said, I thought he did a really nice job. But that sort of, you get those formalities out of the way, and suddenly you're into like, all right, now the session is really kicking up. I don't know. This is my sense. I don't think a whole lot happens the first week. It's all that noteworthy. In my time up there, it's like we're just kind of, we're just kind of stretching out, getting off the couch, ready to go. Everyone's got their priorities and things, but we haven't really gotten too much into committee hearings and so on. And you're still going to wait until you get the actual amount of money that you have to spend, which usually happens first or second week of February, and then you start to figure out how you're going to really divide up that pie. But, there were some things at least that happened up there, and I think we should talk about it with someone who's actually been up there paying more attention to it than either of us have, because the people who cover this as a beat, the reporters who cover it, really have to lock in on a ton of bills. Reporter Brigham Tomko with the Deseret News has been tracking all of this very closely, focusing on a number of things, including election bills, which we may get to. He joins us now to recap some of the biggest bills released or discussed this week. Brigham, my assessment, first week is still people kind of getting their sea legs. Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Have they hit the ground running more than I would think?
Well, hi, Marty, Aaron. Thanks for having me on today. I think that grace period may have lasted the first 3 days, but yesterday evening we saw committee hearings start to spice up around bills dealing with public sector unions and with transgender access to campus dorms. And so I think we're jumping right into the session, and maybe they've gotten up from their couch and stretched out and they're ready to get to the legislation now.
So what do you think are some of the biggest takeaways from the first week, Brigham? If we're here talking to the general public, what do you think people need to know coming out of this first week?
Well, we've seen legislative leadership in the Senate, that's President Stuart Adams, in the House, that's Speaker Mike Schultz, emphasize and re-emphasize their priorities, which are energy production and higher education. And so this first week, we've heard a lot about those two topics in terms of greatly increasing the amount of electricity that the state is producing through innovative technologies like nuclear reactors, which Adams wants to bring to the state, and then also right-sizing the state's 16 institutions of higher education so that the programs better fit the workforce needs in the state and so that taxpayer dollars are used more efficiently, or at least that's the way it's being framed by Republican leadership right now.
And what's your take on those from what you can see so far? Have you seen organized and strong opposition to any of those efforts, or do you feel like these are marching forward? Because there are a couple ways you can go about this, right? If you're trying to strategize from the legislative side, what do you get done with quickly and move on to the next story? And what do you kind of leave hanging out there that might catch some attention later on? So there's like the order that you go through these things really matters. But I'm wondering, do you see any real organized opposition to any of the stuff you just walked us through?
On nuclear energy, we actually see lots of bipartisan support. A bill dropped earlier this week that would simplify the permitting process to identify locations for nuclear reactors. And we've heard Democratic leadership say we are totally behind this all of the above energy approach, as long as we also take into account things like solar and wind and try to move away from coal. On the higher education front, we've seen a lot of opposition, and not just from Democrats, but also from former educators on the Republican side of the aisle as well, where they are questioning whether these bills that would seek to provide guidelines as to which programs to jettison at universities, whether these don't take into account the value that a liberal arts education can bring to people outside of the economic or workforce, metrics that they might be looking at.
Now, you have also written a lot about election bills this week, Brigham, and so I'm curious, same kind of question, right? These are some of the, in my mind, some of the hot bills, at least in the political world, about how we're going to see some reforms to our elections. What are you seeing in that vein? Are you seeing a lot of opposition pop up with that, a lot of, support for it? Kind of where do you see those going?
Yeah, this is definitely set up to be one of the most divisive topics on the Hill this year, as well as public safety relating to immigration and migrant-related crime. These are two topics that are being emphasized and communicated a lot about early on in the session that I think are going to be a big theme for the next 40 days. And so on the elections front, you're seeing mostly Republican lawmakers from the House, which tends to react more explicitly to things that are happening in the current political environment, proposing bills that would address what they see as weaknesses that were exposed during the 2024 election cycle. So these mostly have to do with how vote by mail, the signature verification process can sometimes be subjective or sometimes have an error rate of 2, 3, 4%. And then also having to do with how the U.S. Postal Service, maybe they aren't the best situated to deliver, ballots in the most timely fashion or return them, in front of deadlines. And so we are actually seeing a big push from the leadership in the House with Speaker Mike Schultz backing a bill that would require all voters to return their ballots to a poll worker, either at an official polling location or at a drop box that's staffed with 2 poll workers during the week before Election Day, so that they could get your voter ID at that ballot return point. And there is a way to get around this. You'd be able to, request a mail-in ballot, but this would expire after 2 years, and you'd have to go to your county clerk in person. So it's a clear move to try and curtail, vote by mail as we've had it in the state for the last several years.
Do you see so just kind of piggybacking off of that, do you see the Senate on the same page with that? You mentioned that the House often will be more reactionary and will kind of jump in on some of these things. But the Senate, do you see them being as quick to jump in on this? Do you see potential issues getting this through the Senate?
Senate leadership, mostly Republicans, have stated very clearly they are not interested in getting rid of vote by mail or overhauling it. They've stated that they want to balance any security improvements, which they recognize exist. We can always increase the accuracy when it comes to things like signature verification or how we follow the chain of command where a ballot, goes from a voter to the county clerk. But they want to pair those kinds of considerations with ease of access to the ballot. They want to make sure that none of the policies that are passed make it more difficult for Utahns to vote in primary or general elections. And so they are definitely on a little bit of a different wavelength with the House. So any bills that come from the House, they'll probably see some serious amendments from the Senate before they're passed.
Tell us a little bit about the primary election amendments. This is HB 231.
Yeah, is this the Representative Tusher bill? Sorry, I don't have all the ballot numbers.
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. Yeah, so this bill is taking a look at some of these long-standing effects of Utah's primary qualification process that we've had for the last 10 years, which allowed for candidates to qualify for the primary ballot by gathering signatures instead of just emerging from a state convention among a couple hundred or a few thousand party delegates. And so since that time, we've seen more primaries and more people on the primary ballot, sometimes leading to the winner of the Republican primary only having 30% of the vote and then going on sweeping the general election, as we often see here in deeply red Utah, and entering office, with the support of a small plurality of their own party. And so Representative Tusher's bill would require a runoff election after every single primary where a candidate does not exceed 50% of the vote. So that would be lots of the primaries that we saw actually in this last election cycle, whether it's the 3rd Congressional District with Mike Kennedy or even the Senate race with John Curtis. We would see a runoff election 6 weeks after the regular primary election date, where you would just have the top 2 vote getters on your ballot. And so that's coming from the chair of the House Rules Committee, Representative Tusher, who carries a lot of weight on this issue of election reform. And so I think that's something we should keep our eye on this session.
Yeah, interesting what the timelines can do there, because if you're in a runoff, it's cutting down time you have for the general. But in a lot of these races, it's all about getting the nomination for the Republican Party, because you're most likely going to win in those races as well. All right, a lot more to come up on the Hill over the next, I don't know, what do we still got? We decided 41-ish days up there. Hang in there, Brigham. It's you're going to survive. There's light at the end of the tunnel, I promise. So thanks for checking in with us and giving us an idea of what we should be paying attention to up on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the legislative session some more and get into, just generally what do we think, including what we chatted a little bit about this as a topic we want to hit. That's the potential changes to daylight saving time.
That's right.
That'll at least perk people up a little bit. That's to come next on KSL's Inside Sources.
Attention home buyers, want to save hundreds on your mortgage payment or buy a bigger, nicer home? Visit SaveRight.com. This is Rod with the SaveRight team at Realty Path. SaveRight, our name says it all. SaveRight real estate clients often save $300 to $600 a month on their mortgage. Life of loan savings can be over $300,000. SaveRight clients qualify for and buy bigger, nicer homes. Interest rates are around 7%. SaveRight clients can get fixed rates in the 5s. Our affiliate lender makes it all possible. You can even start with a rate in the 2s. If you're buying or selling a home in Utah, save a ton of money. Hire the SaveRight team of realtors. Visit SaveRight.com for more information.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
There she is, founder and CEO. High five.
Dave can't stop celebrating with every business owner in town.
All right, Baker Man, high five.
He's sharing the excitement of big savings with the Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee.
Up top, Bike Shop.
Yeah. It's 5 years of gig speed internet.
Quick, high five.
5 years of advanced security.
5 years.
And 5 years of a great rate that won't change.
Yeah, law partners. Chamberlain, Messelthorpe, Dubois.
All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Switch today and get the 5-year price lock guarantee.
5 years.
It's back, but only for a limited time.
Woo!
Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. Comcast Business.
Can't forget you, voiceover guy.
Ah, thanks, Dave.
High five.
Ends 3/9/25. Guaranteed rate applies to monthly service charge for new customers on qualifying internet bundle, excluding taxes and fees. Other restrictions apply.
Shop can't miss deals going on now during Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. For a limited time, get a free adjustable stand when you buy a DeWalt 12-inch miter saw. That's a $229 value. Plus, save $680 on a Midea 4-piece kitchen appliance suite, now just $17.96. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows pros. Valid 1/13 through 1/24. Cannot be combined with additional discounts while supplies last. See store or Lowe's.com for more details and qualifying items.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful when Mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. I wanted a better relationship with Dad, so I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I'm sure glad I did. Is someone's drinking troubling you? You might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-AL-ANON or go to alanon.org.
Eye on the Hill 2025. Special coverage on Inside Sources.
Welcome back. Well, we have been talking about the first week of the legislative session. Marty, I think that we are going to just continue that conversation here for a minute.
What else is there to talk about? Let's talk about the session. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. And you know, maybe we can preview some things that are coming up. I know, so at the end of the last session, you previewed for us that there is a bill floating out there about daylight savings.
Yes.
Worth having a conversation.
This is Representative Ellison, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody please tell me if I'm wrong on that.
No, it's Ellison.
Ellison.
Joseph Ellison.
Okay, Joseph Ellison. we end up with these names that are so similar, and then you read them quickly. Okay, so Representative Ellison talked about this bill during the committee hearing this week. Can we play that cut? I think it's cut number 2 for that. Maybe not. So we'll talk about. We'll see if we can get it here. Okay, now we're.
What
good.
is the concern? It's a huge concern to citizens in the state of Utah. Now, again, I'm not arguing which way is better. That's not the point here. The point is that the majority of Utahns, and when I say the majority, we're talking about 75, 80% of Utahns, want us to stop moving the clocks.
Are you in that majority?
You know, I feel like every year that we go through daylight savings, it gets harder and harder and harder. And maybe that's just me getting older and just like feeling older. But I swear, so there's definitely a part of me, you know, I had a coworker in Arizona who was like, I don't understand why you guys keep changing time. Like, just pick one and stick with it.
Yeah.
I would not be opposed to this. I think the bigger issue, though, is which one do you choose? That's where everyone gets hung up. I think almost everybody would agree, yeah, let's just choose one and stick with it. But no one can agree on which one to choose.
For a long time, I was the guy who would say, just get over it. It's not that hard. It's rough for a day, and then you bounce back. But now I'm 46, and I got to tell you, for the first time, this fall back, I have felt it. And so I apologize if this is what everyone else has been feeling all along, that it's tough to make this adjustment. I never had problems with it when it was like, oh, our kids' naps are thrown off or the dog wants to eat at a different time. None of that bothered me. But for some reason this year, it's like, oh, man, I really feel this one. So I'm all for whatever. Pick one and stick with it. The one I want to pick, though, is I think I've got this right in my head. I like daylight saving time. So I like daylight time.
So you like when we spring forward
Right.
and then just stay
So
there.
if they're going to say, let's make a change and let's stick to it, let's spring forward in, when do we do that? March?
March.
Yeah, we'll spring forward because it used to be April and then President Bush moved it, I think, on each end. But anyway, we spring forward and then stick with that because right now, like I got up, to walk the dog yesterday morning, let's say it's 6 a.m., pitch black. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But if we spring forward, that 6 a.m. would actually be what 7 a.m. was, right? You got to check my thinking on this because it can get confusing.
You're right.
So it'd be dark still at 7 a.m.
Yes.
But when the sun was setting on the way home at like 5:30, 5:40 now at this part of the year, it would have been 6:40. So you'd have that extra daylight at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. I prefer it at the end of the day. I like it when it stays light a little bit later post work, but that's because I get up and go to work.
Well, and I think that I actually agree with you on this, but that's been a recent development for me that frankly actually stemmed out of my time working in Boston. And Boston, when I moved to Boston, people said, oh, you're going to just be prepared. It's rough. Winters are really rough in Boston. And I was like, I'm a Utah girl. I don't know what you think winter is, but I know winter. Well, winter in Boston is very different than winter in Utah. And part of that is because Boston is far enough north that when that sun sets, it sets at like 4 p.m. and you're toast. Like it's pitch black for the rest of the day. And that was so hard for me. I remember coming out of my office one day and the sun, we were far enough into winter that the sun set after or at 5 p.m. And it was a huge deal for me. It was just a huge deal. And coming back to Utah, we had so much sunlight during the day and so much daylight during winter. It was a huge shock to my system. So I actually agree that I think I would prefer to have the daylight later in the day because having maybe half of your day, the latter half of your day dark, I don't know. That's just, it plays with your psyche.
It feels like it's already shifted a little bit, right?
Yes.
We're growing in daylight every day. So now when I drive home from work, make the trek from Salt Lake County into Davis County, 5:30, 6, somewhere in there. If it's in the 5 to 5:30 range, like, oh, it's still light outside. And a month ago, it wasn't. It was totally
Well, I think
dark.
I saw something that said we are now past the 10 darkest weeks of the year. And so now we're going to start seeing things get later and later and kind of move towards that.
I would say this, just always figure out what are the 12 hours with the most daylight, and sometime in the middle of the night, shift the clocks. So when my alarm clock goes off, I just know, whatever, it's going to be light as late as it can be, not to exceed 9:30 p.m.
There you go. We should just have every day be a different time.
Although I guess that would cause you problems if you woke up in the morning, you're like, I slept the same amount of hours as last time, but now I'm an hour different. I don't know. It would only shift like a minute a day.
Yeah.
I think is how that would work out.
Well, listeners, we would like to know what you think on this. Text 57500 and tell us what you think the legislature should do on this. Should we stick with the fall back and stay with that, or should we go spring forward and stay with that, or not change it at all? I don't know. I'd be curious to know what our listeners think on that.
It is funny how tricky this gets. You mentioned Arizona, especially if you ever have to schedule something with someone in Arizona. I always have to think like, okay, they are on Mountain Daylight Time, but Mountain Standard Time, but Pacific Daylight Time.
Oh, see, I just Google it. Where are we?
Yeah. What time is it in Arizona right now? You got that world clock thing on your iPhone, right?
Yeah,
you can just look
exactly.
there. It's kind of funny when a world clock, you're like, oh, what time is it in London, Paris, Hong Kong, and Phoenix? Because I can't figure out what time it is in Phoenix all the time. That 1 hour shift, like I know we've run into this before where you miss an appointment or something. When you get to try to schedule something in Arizona and suddenly you're like, oh, we missed that because we were off by an hour. We have some texts.
We do have some texts. So this is fun. A couple of these that have come in so far. Tell the legislators to leave daylight savings alone. It's been working for decades. If a few individuals have a problem with it, then it's their problem. I think that's your thing, Marty. That's kind of where you've been. Another one.
That's where I was. That's not where I'm not anymore. But yes, that's where I was for
That's
a long
where
time.
you were. That's where you were.
So whoever sent that in, unless you're 46, just know you may have to eat that.
Another one. This is actually an interesting one. So we're talking about daylight savings. This person said, I have several machines in my office building that change building, opening computers, and time locks, as well as hot water recirculating pumps that all have programming built in that changes the time automatically. So there would have to be software updates for that if we went with one versus the other.
It's Y2K all over again.
I know it is. It's Y2K all over again, right? Seeing lots of spring forward oncoming, texts coming in here. So I think spring forward is kind of our win from our very unofficial poll with this.
Spring forward and stay there. I think there's a good point in there about the kids not standing out in the dark, waiting for the school bus. You always want to make sure, but we can put the bus somewhere else, right? Like those are just
put a lamp by the bus stop.
Or just like route them through a road that's not as heavy traffic. I don't know. I don't want to get into all of that, but I like sunlight and I miss the sunlight right now and I'm ready for it to come back. And that's the beauty of the legislative session is that when it's over, we're usually back into springtime. So you get to go spend your whole winter up on the hill.
Well, come back. We've got more in the second hour on Inside Sources.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Chaleos. KSL's top local story. Police say they've made an arrest in a nearly 20-year-old cold case murder. It happened in 2005 in Magna. Police booked Mark Munoz in the Salt Lake County Jail this week, accusing him of stabbing Jason Reuter to death. Investigators say the State Bureau of Forensic Services alerted the sheriff's office that they had a hit on the case in the National DNA Database sometime last year. KSL's top national stories from ABC News. After weeks of wildfires, rain and snow are moving into Southern California.
The Los Angeles region is going from weeks of extreme fire warnings, which just expired today, to now a winter weather advisory and the threat of rain and snow this weekend. It likely won't be much rain, but even a little could trigger mudslides and debris flows in the recent burn areas because the ground is bare and fragile, unable to absorb water, and there's so much ash and debris that could move. Sandbags and concrete barriers are being put into place to prevent deadly mudslides.
That is ABC's Alex Stone. Your money at this moment, the Dow ending down nearly 141 points. Coming up, looks like we could see some snow. We'll check the weather coming up next. KSL News Time 2:01.
The sources of where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/radio and use code radio for 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/radio and use code radio at checkout.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm, I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
You bought a house, or maybe you're building one, but it just isn't feeling like home. Not yet. AMC Building Materials has this undeniable knack for transforming a house into a home. Your home. How do they do that? They combine years of exceptional kitchen and bath creations with your ideas. In fact, customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. You know what you want. You know it's not going to be cookie cutter. And this is exactly where AMC shines. AMC delivers exceptional quality, bold-style kitchen and bath designs, along with their exceptional value and a timeline you'll love. Most projects are complete by the elite AMC professional installers in under 10 days. Immerse yourself in the beauty, function, and feel in person at the AMC Building Materials showroom in Salt Lake City. Get directions and schedule your free estimate at amckitchenslc.org. AMC Building Materials, transforming your house into a home. amckitchenslc.org.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age, brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
It doesn't matter if your only neighbors are wildlife or just wild in general.
I would propose that amendment.
If you work from home or work is technically at home, every homeowner can save money by getting a ThermWise home energy plan from Enbridge Gas. Discover ways to make your home more energy efficient and apply for rebates if you purchase any energy efficient appliances. Schedule a home energy plan from Enbridge Gas at thermwise.com.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer. What's happening on the roads, Ricky?
We do have debris in the road and crews now on the scene. This is at the top of the on-ramp in Bountiful to northbound I-15 there at 5th West. And we still have a portion of Bangerter Highway closed to traffic in Riverton. Looks like they're close to opening it up. I'm starting to see a few cars trickle through southbound Bangerter at 126 South. We'll keep you posted when we know more. Join KSL Radio for the 29th Annual Morris Columbus Travel Expo, January 24th through 25th at Mountain America Expo Center. Get great travel prizes and deals. UtahTravelExpo.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Cloudy today with a slight chance of showers. That chance of showers increases to 60% chance of snow tomorrow. Tomorrow's high only 34 degrees. Right now it's 36 degrees, cloudy skies. I'm Maria Chaleos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
All right, we're into the 2 o'clock hour. Aaron Ryder, Marty Carpenter in today on Inside Sources. President Trump making his way across the country today, touring areas ravaged by recent natural disasters. So this morning he was in North Carolina, which I actually love to see both the president and the vice president in North Carolina because it's so easy in this country to move on with the news cycle, right? And so it was probably, August, September-ish when we had really bad hurricanes in, the mid-Atlantic into North Carolina, caused just total devastation. And, that can easily be usurped as it was in the headlines by the presidential debates and the presidential election and all of that is going to dominate the conversation in the country. And then we get into the wildfires in Los Angeles, and it's easy to forget about, those people don't just build houses as quickly as the news cycle can move on. So I love seeing that North Carolina is part of this tour for the president. This afternoon, he's going to be in California touring destroyed areas that were destroyed by wildfires, I should say, in the Los Angeles area. And of course, there's still fires going on there. And he's prepared for this trip. Even this morning, he was talking about FEMA and, essentially saying that states should take the lead and FEMA should be there to help. Am I oversimplifying that?
No, I think that's pretty good, actually. It's a pretty succinct way to say it. He says he wants to have, quote, a whole big discussion very shortly on FEMA because he'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. And I don't know, this is an interesting one. You and I are both Republicans, and there's certainly an element of federalism in the Republican Party of let the states handle it, local government, local control. What do you think about this?
I think this probably stems in part from some of his comments very recently about California and the way California failed to prepare for the wildfires, that they actually in some cases took steps that put them in a bad spot in their ability to react to the fires. So I like this from the states' rights perspective of, I think the states should take the lead. I don't think that necessarily means that you don't get any federal funding because it's in our national interest and a lot of times to go build these places back up. But I think there should be an element of responsibility and authority being shared there that like a state shouldn't just get into a groove where they say, hey, no matter what happens, the feds are going to come in and try to fix it and they're going to pay for it. And at the same time, I think you hear the complaint from a lot of states that when there is a disaster, the feds come in and mostly get in the way of their response efforts. And so letting states who understand the area and the people and the systems better, I think is the right way to go.
Well, and that's pretty much what President Trump said. In fact, we have a short clip here. During the president's time in Asheville, he told reporters that disaster relief shouldn't involve a federal government agency. Let's listen to what he said.
FEMA has been a very big disappointment. They cost a tremendous amount of money. It's very bureaucratic, and it's very slow.
So, I mean, that's exactly your point there, Marty, right? They come in, there's a lot of money that's being spent, and in some ways they can kind of bog down the rebuilding and recovery process because they're just, everything gets suddenly caught up in the red tape of a very large government organization, federal government organization.
Slow and bureaucratic. And if you could say anything about the Trump administration so far, 1 week in, not quite a week in, it's that they are against things being slow and bureaucratic. And this goes back to what we were talking about, I think in our first or second segment of the show today. It's time for the country to get out of its own way. And so to the extent that the administration is saying, the way we've always done this has proven to not always be the most effective. And let's figure out the most effective way to do it to balance that between the states and the federal government. Because if it is just expensive and slow and bureaucratic, those are three things that we should try to either eliminate or minimize. I think picking up after a natural disaster, building back is going to be expensive. But it can be less expensive if it's less bureaucratic. And when it's less bureaucratic, it's less slow. It's faster to get through that process, which is what people want when they've been impacted.
Well, and it's probably, we were talking about this at the beginning, but I do think it's very interesting that he's in Asheville today. He's in Asheville and then in California. So he's seeing this from two different sides too, right? You've got the aftermath in North Carolina and, a few months after the fact. And then you also have the immediacy of what's happening in California. And you're probably seeing, okay, FEMA has been all hands in on both of these areas. What is that doing to the recovery process of those areas? And it's not just the test case of California today. It's also what has happened over the last several months. And if we are still seeing problems, if we are still seeing inefficiencies and things taking too long, and we are now having the federal government getting in the way of North Carolina being able to get itself back on its own feet, that would put you in a position of saying, why are we still doing this? This clearly isn't working. And Trump has very clearly come in with an eye towards, if it's not working, I want it gone.
Yeah. So expensive, slow, and bureaucratic is essentially what he said. I would say that two other words that should be a part of this factor are predict and prevent. Mm-hmm. What is it that we can predict or can say there's a pretty good chance that New Orleans is going to have a hurricane, right? There's less of a prediction to say it's going to get hit with snow like it did this week, right? So where you can predict, or I would say maybe anticipate that you're potentially going to have a problem, what are you doing to prevent that? And I think it should be the state's responsibility to say, we have to go and prevent this. We talk about this in Utah all the time. There's federal land here that the federal government is not taking care of. Mm-hmm. They're being expensive, slow, and bureaucratic and preventing us from preventing bad things from happening by not clearing underbrush, right? Same thing happened in California. Mm-hmm. To a certain extent, there were government entities that were not taking care of preventing the situation. So when you're expensive, slow, bureaucratic, and you don't prevent or predict anything, if you're 0 for 5 on that, that's a recipe for disaster. And I think the average American would say, yeah, we should think, how can we anticipate or predict? How can we take steps to prevent? And then when something does happen, let's get rid of the bureaucratic as much as we possibly can, so there's still accountability for where the money goes and how it's spent, but it doesn't open itself up to fraud or people embezzling money. But let's minimize that bureaucratic strain, and let's speed up the recovery. So let's not be any more expensive than we have to be by eliminating the bureaucratic. Let's get rid of the slow. Let's anticipate better, and let's prevent.
But how do you think this works practically? Because one of the things that Trump hasn't given a lot of information about what he thinks this should look like, but one of the things that has kind of been discussed is the states would be the first line. They would have responsibility for getting themselves back on their track and basically just kind of hand the receipt over to the federal government, and the federal government would help financially.
Yeah.
And yeah, I can see some value in that for sure. But practically, it feels like anytime you get the federal government involved, there are going to be strings attached. How do you say, if you do an adequate job preventing, then, that's what we want to see? What does it even look like?
Yeah, it's tough because it's that who gets to make the decision on which expenses are covered, which aren't covered, things like that. You can't necessarily just say, hey, you've got a blank check, but go take care of your problem. Ideally, you would just have a bunch of people elected who are running cities, counties, states, and the country who can say, we know what the objective here is. And when something's on fire, our objective is to stop the fire. And when something's been destroyed by fire or hurricane or flood or whatever, our focus is to go get that fixed and get people back to where they need to be. And let's do it as efficiently as we can. You're right, you have to come up with some kind of mechanism in there. But I think you could have some give and take between states to say, between states and the federal government to say, hey, you need to go do all of the stuff that you need to do to predict and prevent. And we're going to get out of your way when you do that. And you need to have things in place like fire trucks or airplanes that can scoop water out of the ocean and dump them on fires. You need to have that in place, have a plan to get to where you have that in place. And when you have done that part, we'll do our part to come back and have your back.
Yeah, so hard though, because what do you then say to the states that don't have elected officials who are adequately doing that, right? Do you really just say to California, sorry, your elected officials didn't take care of this?
I honestly think that's what a majority of the country right now looks at California and says, you guys just stood around twiddling your thumbs or actively hurt your ability to respond to this. Why is that something that I get to pick up the tab for, right? There's got to be sort of a balance there between the responsibility of go take care of the stuff and predict and prevent, right? You didn't do any of that, and now you're coming for the money. That's when you get into a conflict. If California or any other state were in the position to say, we did all that we could, we had as much as this in place, and we were able to minimize it to the extent we could, but we still have a big disaster on our hand, I think that's when the country goes, yeah, well, it's important for us to help out then. That's maybe a too altruistic of a look, but that's the general sense I think I have from the country.
Well, I think we're going to find out more about what Trump wants to see as we get into.
I think he'll mention what he wants to see. Yeah, he's usually not a shrinking violet. He'll tell us what he thinks.
Yeah. Well, coming up on Inside Sources next, nominee for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth faces the main confirmation vote tonight. This is a huge deal. We're going to see how this goes. So stay with us. Coming up next.
Join the smartest conversation in Utah, the team of analysts and political advisors that make up Inside Sources. Get unfiltered analysis of the new administration, the president's cabinet, and Utah's upcoming legislative session. Inside Sources, weekdays from 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
Experience The Crossings by Fieldstone Homes. Enjoy elevated lifestyle in this beautiful Heber Valley Luxury Series community near parks, a fishing pond, pool, and clubhouse minutes from Park City, Salt Lake City in Utah County. With serene mountain views and plenty of fresh air, we stand out in The Crossings with unique transitional architecture and options for built-in rental suites or ADU apartments. These homes are simply gorgeous and near 2 reservoirs, Provo River, Daniels Summit, and ski resorts. Join Fieldstone Homes for a truly unique home buying solution. Saturday, January 25th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the grand opening of the Crossroads in Heber. Enjoy lunch from the on-site food truck and grand opening giveaways while you explore these beautiful new homes. Design your new home or select a quick move-in home. The curated Fieldstone design and architecture is unmatched. With multiple incentive offers and floor plans starting in the mid-900s, you've got to visit fieldstonehomes.com for details. Fieldstone Homes. It's time.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
If you've ever set New Year's resolutions before, you know how difficult it is to follow through because you have to wait to see the results. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and in honor of your New Year, New You resolutions, Any Hour Services is having our New Year, New System sale. From now until the end of February, Any Hour Services will give you $2,025 off a new furnace and air conditioner. And you don't have to wait to save the money. You get $2,025 off at the time of purchase. The only thing you have to do to qualify for our New Year, New System sale is call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate. When you call, there's no obligation to buy. Just schedule a time to meet that works best for you. Let me say that again. From now until the end of February, when you have Any Hour Services install a new furnace and air conditioner, we'll give you $2,025 off. Call Any Hour Services right now and schedule a free estimate. 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code SECONDFREE by January 26th. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, the full Senate is looking to vote, getting ready to vote on whether or not to confirm Pete Hegseth to be President Trump's Secretary of Defense. Since Matt Gaetz stepped down for Attorney General, I would say this is easily the most controversial of Trump's nominations so far. It looks, we were just talking about this. I think it's pretty likely that he's going to get the nomination. Any pushback on that, Marty?
I think it's going to be closer than they'd like it to be. Mm-hmm. Like all indications would be that's the case. But yeah, I think it gets done. It seemed like the biggest hurdle was the vote last night that went
to advance
51-49 to advance. I when I look at this particular one and sort of the nomination of the cabinet members in general, what I see is a Trump administration that's gotten much better at this. Like they figured out like, okay, we can not only can we go make it happen, but we're willing to flex our muscles and not shrink away from a fight. The Gates one right off the bat was like, oh, that's a really weird pick. Like it's almost like you're asking to get defeated on one early on. And when he stepped down, I thought, okay, they've figured this out, because whether you think he just stepped down or whether the administration said, hey, this one's not going to go our way. We should change course, and you should do it in the way that's best for you to step aside. I feel like my impression is that the Trump team has just gotten better at this. They figured out how to go get their guys confirmed.
Well, so far, like you said, last night there was a vote to advance the nomination, which was a big deal. 51 Republicans voted for it. There were 2 Republicans who did not, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska and Susan Collins from Maine. And so, today they have 2 more really votes that they can lose, which does not seem likely at this point. However, one of the big wild cards is Senator Mitch McConnell. We have a short clip from ABC talking about McConnell's role in this.
We have our eyes on Senator Mitch McConnell. While McConnell did vote yes for this to move forward on this key test vote, it's really up in the air on whether he's going to end up supporting Hegseth's nomination. I was told that he did not meet with Hegseth, even though Hegseth's team reached out to him and wanted to schedule a meeting. Even if McConnell is a no, Hegseth seems to have the support he needs to be confirmed.
Yeah, so even if they were to lose a couple more votes, then it would just put it into a tie, at which point J.D. Vance would step in as, the president of the Senate and undoubtedly vote in favor of this. So it seems likely that Pete Hegseth is going to get the nomination. The bigger question on this, and where this has really all come down, is this big question of morals versus, I'll say, skills, right? A lot of the pushback on Pete Hegseth has been he does not have the moral character fit to be the Secretary of Defense. That's what a lot of Democrats are saying, and therefore we should not put him in that kind of position of authority. Whereas a lot of Republicans are saying he's perfectly qualified for the job. We frankly don't care about his moral background. We want someone who can do the job. This is something that comes up a lot, I think, and we see it, I don't know. I mean, do you care about the moral character of someone that you're appointing to a position like this?
Yes, I do care about it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I, don't think anyone can change over the course of their lifetime, right? That you can have a mistake in your past, and that shouldn't necessarily disqualify you. And B, I do think that the skill set that we're looking for is primary in trying to hire for a job. And if anything, the Trump administration has said this, like, look, we've had other people who've been in these roles. We've had, legal scholars. We've had former generals. We've had a lot of people who've served as the Secretary of Defense who have not ended up being great picks. And we're going a different direction. And I think there's so much to like about the pick in Hegseth because of his background. Like, here's someone who's actually, led troops into battle, not as a general, not behind the line, not from a command center, but has been boots on the ground. What does he say? He's had dust on his boots, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's incredibly valuable when you say we want someone who's going to go lead this entire massive organization, incredibly well-funded organization, and one that, by many accounts is suffering from sort of some morale and having a hard time recruiting people to come be part of the armed forces. So to signal that you can put somebody at the top of the Department of Defense who really can speak the language of the folks who are the guys doing the jobs that we need done, I think there's just tremendous value in that. And so to say, is he going to get there with a complete Boy Scout record? That he's just clean as a whistle? I think that's a lot to ask for. And I also think that some of the people who are questioning his morality are people whose morality I would question in some cases as well.
Well, that certainly has been some of the pushback. But I don't know. I mean, I think this is a really interesting question. It's one that I've thought about a lot. It's, being involved in the political world. It's one that I've talked to other people about. How many strikes, quote unquote, should you get? If, is there an elevated level of expectation if you are going to be in a position like this? And yeah, I mean, everybody has made mistakes in their life. There's no question about that. But where is the line, and is there a line where we say, okay, certain things that have happened in your past, we just frankly don't know that you have the ability. If you, a lot of the pushback on Pete Hegseth has been, if you are cheating on your spouse, if you have all of these questionable things that you've done in your past, how do we know that you have the ability to lead a group that is built on honor, that is built on trust, that is built on all these things that the military is supposed to stand for, where the Secretary of Defense is one of the most significant positions in the cabinet? I don't know. I mean, I think that's an interesting
And he would
question.
probably point and say, well, look at when I've done that with the military and have I had any issues when doing it in a military setting, right? So qualify there. I think this goes sort of to the broader idea that, and I think I've moved a little bit in this direction, probably more than I ever thought I would have as a voter, to say, a lot of these people who are in high positions aren't the people who I hope they would be, as far as do they live up to my ideals? Probably not in a lot of instances. And that's going to be the case whether I vote left or right? Mm-hmm. Like, you could say, well, there were moral failings on both sides of most of the tickets that you had a choice to vote between Democrats and Republicans. But I think more and more American voters have said, I'm hiring someone to do a job. And sometimes it's a dirty job. And sometimes that person has to go do a dirty job for me that's in my best interest. And so that's what I'm prioritizing right now. I just think that's the case. I think you could make that argument in the presidential race. I think you can make that argument in a lot of races. And I think you can make it in some of the nominations to say, hey, our military should be about winning and preventing wars. And if this guy's got the credentials to say, I've been the guy, dust on my boots, and I know how this should work, and I want to get the American warrior prepared to go protect and preserve American interests, okay, that's the job I'm hiring that guy for. And I'm a little less concerned about his personal life unless it's shown that personal life has interfered with his professional life.
Yeah.
Ideally, I'd like a guy who I've got both.
Right.
But that's not, you're not giving me another alternative where you can say, but this guy over here, squeaky clean, and
well, you get the alternative
kicks butt
if
on the
you demand
battlefield.
it, right? You get the alternative if you say, no, we're not going to confirm someone who has this kind of background. That's where you get it.
And with that comes another several months where no one's really leading the Department of Defense at a very dangerous time. So to some extent, you say, I think this is confirm him, and if there's a problem, maybe you've got some kind of short leash, or you're being vigilant to see if something changes where you would need to make a change there.
Yeah. Well, listeners, again, we'd love to know what you think about this. Text us at 57500. Should morals matter when you are appointing and confirming some of these leaders for these top cabinet positions in the administration, or is it really just about skills? We've got a lot more coming in the show. We've got some interesting things coming up here before too long. We're going to have a conversation on the intersection of politics, culture, and religion. Marty, I think that's going to be a really interesting conversation. We've got an interview
that's coming
here.
up in our next segment. That's going to be
coming up on our next segment. So stick with us, and we'll be back.
Good afternoon, 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. KSL's top local story, we must build. Governor Cox emphasizing building in his State of the State address last night, saying he wants 35,000 new affordable starter homes built. Executive Vice President of the Home Builders Association of Utah, Ross Ford, says it's doable, but they end up running into a lot of red tape on the city level, and that drives up the cost.
And as that happens, that time ticks off. Every day that ticks off, there is an added cost to that home because somebody's paying interest. Those delays cost money.
Ford says there have been talks about blanket zoning that would require certain areas to be used for affordable housing, and it could override city regulations, but that still remains to be seen. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Target is ending its diversity, equity, and inclusion goals.
After President Trump's executive order scrapping DEI initiatives, the Target chain announcing an end to its 3-year DEI program, also ending, it says as planned, a racial equity action and change program, and stopping diversity-focused surveys. But its statement also says it's focused on growth with a commitment to inclusion for employees, customers, and communities, with references using the words all and everyone.
That's ABC's Chuck Sievertson. On Wall Street, your money at this moment. The Dow lost 140 points today. Coming up, snow is on the way. How much you'll get in just a moment. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 2:31.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Here's something you don't want to miss. We want to let you know about Advanced Garage Door. They're a great company that Deb and I discovered.
Kyle, what sets Advanced Garage Door apart from other companies?
At Advanced Door, we're always looking for the industry-leading and highest quality garage door parts. We handle everything from repairs and installations to maintenance and emergency services. Plus, we provide a lifetime warranty on all residential doors and parts.
A lifetime warranty? That's amazing. What does it cover?
Our lifetime warranty covers labor on residential doors, parts, and services, as long as our recommendations are followed. This means our customers can enjoy peace of mind knowing their garage doors are always protected.
That's fantastic. So if someone's garage door is giving them trouble, what should they do?
Just give us a call. Our certified technicians are available 24/7 to provide prompt and reliable service. We're here to ensure your garage door is always in top shape.
For all your garage door needs, visit advanced-door.com.
Or call 801-989-DOOR. That's 801-989-3667.
Advanced Garage Door, where we sell peace of mind.
Lowe's knows how to help make your Super Bowl 59 party a touchdown. Let us help you prep your home to host with top brands like Charbroil, Blackstone, and LG, so you can be the MVP of game day. Plus, use the Lowe's app to find what you need for a seamless shopping run. Or huddle up with our Lowe's Red Vest associates to help make all your game time hosting decisions.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my super hydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's limited time balance transfer bonus. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have an accident in Tooele County. This is northbound SR 36 Main Street at Stansbury Park. It's now been moved out of traffic to the right shoulder, but there are some residual delays. Visit the boat show January 30th through February 2nd at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy. This is your opportunity to shop, compare, and buy the boat of your dreams. Visit UtahBoatShow.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, snow in the morning, 1/2 to maybe 2 inches on the valley floor, but more expected to the south in Utah County, where they'll get 3 to 6. Tomorrow's high 34 degrees. Right now it's 36. I'm Jeff Kaplan from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
All right, welcome back to Inside Sources. Marty Carpenter and Aaron Ryder in today. And, God, we've talked so much about the legislative session and the governor's State of the State address. A little bit of President Trump on the FEMA tour, going out to look at disaster areas across our country. We're going to shift gears this segment, talking a little bit more about politics and the division of the American people into groups of red and blue states. That seems to extend into every part of our culture at this point, Aaron. And I think religion is kind of gets mixed in with that, right? There's you can say, well, we're after evangelical voters, or do you have the support of Latter-day Saint voters? And it just kind of all gets mixed into this big contemptuous battle of which side are you on, and are you fighting for truth and righteousness based on whatever your particular perspective or religious background may be. And we have an amazing guest in studio with us today. Jonathan Rauch is a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, one of the most insightful voices on politics, society, and the role of truth in public life. Just to give you some background here, his work spans everything from the future of liberal democracy to the dangers of cancel culture, and he's been a leading advocate for free speech and civil discourse. And he has a new book out called Cross Purposes, which explores the intersection of faith and public life, and introduces some really interesting ideas that we want to get to. So I'm going to stop yammering here in just a minute. Jonathan, thanks so much for being with us.
I'm happy to be here.
We really appreciate it. And you've got this new book out, and I want to jump right into that if we can, and we can back out and talk about other stuff, Aaron, if you want after that. But I love this. You kind of walk through three things: thin, sharp, and thick Christianity. And I'm wondering if you could just maybe walk us through what each of those are, and sort of the benefits or drawbacks of each one. Just give us the baseline education on thin, sharp, and thick Christianity.
Thin Christianity is what happens when Christianity loses its distinctiveness, becomes just a consumer choice, and doesn't really address people's faith needs very well, and they drift away. And that's what's happened to the mainline churches over the past 50, 60 years. I wrote the book because that's had some pretty dire consequences. They've turned to pseudo-religions like, wokeness and QAnon and Wicca and SoulCycle. Sharp Christianity is what happens when Christianity gets politicized and becomes a divisive force that focuses on contemporary partisan politics instead of a more unifying force that focuses on how to prepare for the next world. And that's what's happened to the white Protestant evangelical churches. They've become more or less synonymous with the Republican Party, and as that's happened, they've shrunk very rapidly, losing members rapidly, become more politicized, more divisive. Thick Christianity is a form of Christianity that's countercultural and that demands a lot of its followers, but also gives a lot in exchange. So it's a distinctive church community. But it's also a church community that can align itself with trying to be a peacemaker in society. And I'm here in Salt Lake City because I found an example of that in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, interesting. Tell us more about that. I know that you have met with church leaders, both on this current trip as well as in the past. I'm curious to know, as an outsider's perspective looking in on this, what it is about that sort of affects the society, the culture, how that thick Christianity really comes into play with what you've seen in that those discussions.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. It's so interesting because I am such an outsider. I'm an atheist. I'm a Jew. I'm gay. I have lots of reasons to be on a very, very different page from the Church of Jesus Christ. And yet, I found when I was beginning to look around the country for examples of churches that were trying to bring people together, I saw the Utah Compromise in 2015. That astonished me. I've been for many years a pro-LGBT rights and same-sex marriage advocate. And then they did it again in 2022. They helped push through a federal law that enshrines my same-sex marriage in law, even though they're against it. No one else is doing that in the culture, but they're saying, look, we got some important religious liberty protections out of this, and we're not here to tell other people how to live. We want to have the freedom to live our way, but we want couples like John and Michael to be able to live their way. So I began looking at the teachings of President Oaks on this. He's given some very prominent addresses, and I was surprised at what I saw, which is a deep understanding of the Madisonian pluralism model of the Constitution, which says, you've got to work to get along with others. You've got to compromise. President Oaks was preaching patience, negotiation, and mutual accommodation. Not at all like what we're hearing from other white Protestant groups.
And, you talk about this idea of thick Christianity as having this deep sustaining role in both personal and public life. What do you think a society looks like when thick Christianity is strong, and conversely, what happens when it weakens?
Well, the founders understood and told us again and again that the Constitution and the liberal democracy that they bequeath to us is not completely self-sustaining. That liberal democracy relies on what they call Republican virtues. Virtues like lawfulness and truthfulness, civility and kindness to each other. They understood that people have to be willing to share the country and follow the process and sometimes lose instead of win, so concede an election. And they told us that those values have to come from civil society, and that's, of course, family and it's other civic groups. But very largely, it's got to be religion, because that's where people turn for values, for group worship, to think about the higher things in life. Well, Christianity has undergone a rapid breakdown in the last 20 years. We've never seen anything like it. It's called the Great Dechurching, just a huge abandonment of Christianity, especially by younger Americans. A few years ago, 22 years ago, I wrote the dumbest thing I've ever written, an article for The Atlantic. And I said, isn't this great? We're finally getting away from that ignorant, dumb religion stuff. Boy, was I wrong, because it turned out people still have these needs for a purpose in life and meaning and a set of values, but they're turning to pseudo-religions for that. Things like, Soul Cycle or Wicca or QAnon or wokeness, which don't transmit those eternal values, but instead get embroiled in partisan politics and polarization. So it turns out the substitutes for religion are much worse, and the founders were right, and we still need, well, put it this way, it turns out Christianity is still a load-bearing wall in our democracy, and people like me, who are not Christians, need to care about it.
I heard someone say once, and I thought it was very profound, that we are pre-programmed as human beings to worship something. And that will either be like an organized religion, or it will turn into the kind of things you're describing as thin, or in some cases even sharp religions. Do people want and need something different from religion than they try to find in politics? And essentially what I'm getting at is, what do you see as the healthiest role for faith in the public square?
Well, for guidance on that, among other places, I look here. So, of course, you're not asking people to compromise their faith when they join politics. But the teachings of Jesus Christ and the teachings of James Madison, father of our Constitution, turn out to be very closely aligned. Jesus said, don't be afraid. It's possibly the most frequently repeated injunction in the Bible. And James Madison says, trust the system. Occasionally you'll lose an election. Don't panic. You learn something from that. The country will be better off in the long run. Jesus said, imitate me. Be like Jesus. He's a radical egalitarian. He believes in defending the least of these. He believes in the fundamental importance of every human being. That's also core James Madison and liberalism. In liberalism, you're always making sure you don't have a tyranny of the majority that stamps on the minority. And it says never use individuals as means to an end. Humans are an end unto themselves. And then the last one is forgive each other, is what Jesus tells us to do. And James Madison says an equivalent, a similar concept, which is forbearance, which is, okay, sometimes you win an election. You're not here to crush the other side so that they never come back. You're going to have to live with these people. So share the country with them. Be collegial. Don't try to salt the soil and drink their tears. And treat them the way you will want to be treated when the tables turn and they're governing you. So all I'm saying is I'm not asking Christians to be more liberal or conservative or democratic or Republican. I'm just saying be more Christian.
We're almost out of time, but I want to give you an opportunity to make sure people know where to get the book. It comes out February 4th, is that right?
February 4th, Yale University Press. It's a very short book. It's part of a series of short books, and it's available on fine bookstores everywhere.
Jonathan Rauch, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, has been our guest on Inside Sources. Thanks so much. Really fascinating stuff, and I would definitely recommend people go out and take a chance to read the book.
Thank you.
All right, we're back with more on Inside Sources after this.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
This statement has not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
When it comes to my lifestyle and diet, I don't always make the smartest choices. Touchdown! Woo! Hey, how about another round and some more chips? But when it comes to taking care of my liver, I do make one very smart choice. Active Liver Tablets from New Nordic. I used to have real issues with my liver, and at my last checkup, my doc was concerned about my numbers. But since adding a once-a-day Active Liver tablet, my gut's better, I feel great, and my doctor's happy. I ask a lot of my liver, so the least I can do to say thanks is a daily dose of Active Liver.
You ask a lot of your liver, so give it the support it needs with Active Liver. You can find Active Liver at Amazon.com, or for a volume discount, visit NewNordicUSA.com. Go to new, NORDICUSA.com, Amazon, or ask for Active Liver at your local CVS. New year, new you. New Nordic.
Where can you kick off the new year with big savings on gig speed? Only with Xfinity. Now through January 30th, get gig internet at home for $25 a month for 1 year when you add an unlimited mobile line, which connects you with gig speed Wi-Fi on the road. Act fast today and save more than $650 over AT&T and Verizon in your first year. Plus, hurry and take advantage because right now you can also get a free 5G phone with trade-in. So save big and stay connected to what you love with fast gig speed internet and mobile from home to hotspots. This new year, it's all about gig speeds and big savings. Don't wait and get gig speed internet, spend less green, and switch to Xfinity. Go to Xfinity.com/gig savings to learn more. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account restrictions apply. Equipment taxes and fees extra. $40 internet discount applied to mobile bill after promo. Regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary. Savings compared to Verizon Fiber Gig Plus 1 unlimited welcome line and AT&T Fiber Gig Plus 1 unlimited starter line. Xfinity internet required reduced speeds after 30 gigabytes of usage per line. Data thresholds and actual speeds vary.
Did you know your skin is the largest organ of your body? Huh? That's why you should shower with Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash instead of plain old bar soap. Love your skin by super hydrating it with vitamin B3 and glorious notes of vanilla and shea. Did you know that my superhydrated skin is the second largest organ of my body? The first is my heart. Old Spice. Men have skin too. Old Spice Super Hydration Body Wash. 24/7 renewing moisture. With daily use.
What was that? That is business phone bliss with the Ooma Cloud Phone System. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very...
Calm? I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's been discussed for years now. Should the United States drop the penny? This might actually finally become a reality with the new Department of Government Efficiency, the DOGE. Our producer, Andy Cupp, is joining me for this last conversation today in our final segment. Now, as we talk through this, we want to hear your thoughts. So do you have thoughts on the future of the penny? Text us at 57500. Join our conversation. We're going to be talking about this today. So, Andy, I'll just put this out there. We know Elon Musk is... he has the penny in his sights as one of the first things that Doge is going after. What do you think about this?
Find a penny, pick it up all the day, you'll have good luck. Won't mean anything anymore, I guess. But that's okay. You know, it's fine. No, I find it fascinating because, like you said, it's something that has been thrown around for decades. And a lot of other Western countries have gotten rid of their penny already. But it's funny that it's taking a new bureaucratic department of government efficiency to finally actually maybe make this happen. And that, I think, is really interesting.
I wonder if it's a little bit of an quote unquote easy win for Doge, right? If they're going out there and they've got to be efficient and deal with government efficiency, well, getting rid of the penny is probably something that Congress hasn't really had the time to get around to with everything else on its plate.
Not top priority.
Not top priority, no. So let's have Doge do it. And give Doge an easy win. What I found interesting, we're looking at an article from CNN. The U.S. Mint in 2023 reported that it circulated around 4.1 billion pennies. That's crazy. And I had no idea that many people were still using pennies. Andy, you and I are both millennials. I have not touched a penny in years. I don't even know if I have any in my house. I probably do somewhere. But do you use pennies?
No, but I do have pennies, and they sit in jars on shelves full of other change that I have yet to take to the credit union or one of those little change machines. I have a couple in my car just because I've gotten them, random places. But I mean, in general, I don't carry cash. So the penny, even if I did carry cash, would be very low on the totem pole of currency that I would carry.
Well, there are a few reasons why people are pushing for us to get rid of the penny. One is that it costs about 3.7 cents to produce and distribute a penny, which, if you know anything about American currency, a penny is less than 3.1 or 3.7 cents. So, it costs more to make them and distribute them than they're actually worth. And that seems to be a waste of energy and money. Right?
Yeah, and not even just, it costs 3.7 cents to produce a single penny. It's up 20% from previous years. So as the price for metal goes up, the penny will be worth less and less and less. But we might still have it for some odd reason.
Well, one of the other interesting pros for getting rid of the penny is that it could potentially save businesses time. By save them time for store clerks and cashiers. So if you're standing in line at Starbucks and you don't have pennies, then the person in front of you can't waste time by counting out pennies. They're stuck with nickels and dimes and I guess whatever else you use, but not pennies. And so there's a time-saving argument there if you get rid of the penny, which I thought was kind of a funny and interesting argument.
Yeah. And I've heard the argument or the concern before of, if you get rid of the penny, do we have to change everything to end in a 5 or a 10?
Right.
And no, you don't.
So all of our $14.99 price tags
would
aren't
probably still stay. No, my mom went to Canada shortly after they got rid of the penny, and she went to, I think, a McDonald's or something, and paid in cash, because it's always more fun to pay in cash when it's a foreign currency. And they didn't give her a penny back. They rounded up to the nearest 5. And she was very confused, and she just stood there and she said, well, where's my penny? And the lady looked at her very odd, like, what do you mean? So she just gave her a 5-cent piece and was like, here you go. But if you pay with a credit card in Canada, it still will charge you, the exact penny amount, $14.99.
Yeah.
It only applies when you're actually paying with cash. So you don't ever have to really change how you do currency. It just kind of just goes by the wayside.
So if you this is interesting. If you pay in cash, you could end up paying more if you show up to a storefront that has, a $14.99 price tag and you have cash with you and you're trying to pay in coins, they might charge you $15, whereas the credit card company might only charge you $14.99.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Exactly. It is interesting. We've talked off the show before about your love for The West Wing, and one of the funny things,
which I just want to mention that our producer Andy, sitting here with me right now, has never seen The West Wing. So listeners, I think you need to join me and Marty in encouraging Andy to watch The West Wing, because as someone who deals with the news on a regular basis and politics, I find this shocking.
I will put it on my to-do list. But either which way, the CNN article has the great little story of a 2001 episode where Sam Seaborn goes into a rant about the penny. And he says, majority of pennies don't circulate. They go in jars in sock drawers. And I mean, that's where all of my pennies are in jars up on a shelf. And so, I mean, you think about not just the amount of money that the government could save by not producing the penny, think about the amount of waste. Because where do those pennies end up? Usually at the bottom of something, the bottom of a fountain, the bottom of a trash can because you don't care to keep it, or just on the sidewalk. So you can look at it as this is government efficiency in terms of spending, but also in terms of waste, trash.
Yes, but
I
see,
guess.
here's what I want to know. What happens if you want to make a wish at the Trevi Fountain? Well, I guess that's in Italy. What happens if you want to make a wish at a fountain in America and you don't have a penny? Are you going to throw a nickel in there? Are you going to throw a dime in there? Does that just get rid of wishes at fountains altogether?
No, I think you'd have to throw in a nickel so you get 5 times the wishes.
You get 5 times.
You know, the more you pay for your wish, the more likely it's to come true, right? Isn't that how that works? Something.
Well,
something
what
like that?
about also the the little machines where you can stick a penny in and it
Flattens it out.
Flattens it out,
Yep,
right? And
yep.
reshape the souvenir pennies. Yeah.
We've been getting some text messages here too, and most people say yes, get rid of the penny. I don't see anybody who says to keep it. But speaking of nickels, some people are saying to get rid of the nickel too. Get rid of the nickel, just make it hundredths and or change it from hundredths to tens.
Well,
it's an interesting idea. And I wonder too, I mean, this article that we were looking up because it was all on the penny. I don't know how much it costs to make a nickel. Do you think it costs less than 5 cents?
Well, I mean, I do think that is an interesting question. Is there a slippery slope with this, right? If you get rid of the penny, should you just get rid of the nickel? If you get rid of the nickel, should you get rid of the dime? And
just get rid of cash?
Like, yeah, where's the line, right?
Yeah.
Are quarters important enough that you keep quarters? Because what do you do with vending machines if you don't have quarters? Or do you, I don't know. I think that's I don't know.
Well, and it's interesting too, in the post-pandemic world, a lot of places during the pandemic stopped accepting cash because they didn't want, things exchanging hands. And most places I think have brought it back, but we were up at a burger place up in Centerville last weekend, and they specifically had a sign saying they don't keep cash. They don't take cash, they don't keep it there. And they said, the sign said it was for safety reasons because it's hard to rob a place without cash. And then I think it was also for the time savings because you don't have to stand there and count out your change. Back to the nickel thing too, our board op, Alex, did a quick Google search. It costs 11.54 cents to produce a nickel.
So, same argument.
What's the point of having the coins?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a slippery slope, right? You start with the penny, and do you then go for after the nickel? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to find out, though. I mean, like I said, this is kind of one of the first things that Doge is really going after. This is Elon Musk's thing. Vivek Ramaswamy's no longer there. So stick with us, and we're going to find out. Thanks for listening to Inside Sources today. Taylor Morgan and Adam Gardner will be here on Monday from 1 to 3. Next up, Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News. Have a great weekend.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We're at 36 degrees. It's cloudy. KSL's top story. Rumors of ICE raids across Utah are circulating all over social media. A lot of people they're talking about immigration agents in local workplaces. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera is live with the latest. Here's Eric.
Jeff, multiple Reddit and social
job. I ended up taking 2 pictures of it to just 50 states.
Immigration attorney Carlos Trujillo confirmed